Wow! Fable, South of Midnight, Star Wars Outlaws. Welcome to our first ever double feature, the Xbox Game Showcase, followed by a deep dive into one of the most important RPGs ever made, Starfield. Gaming is the most powerful of all entertainment. It transports, it challenges, it connects us, and it's just incredibly and awesomely fun. That is why Team Xbox is committed to building the greatest place to play, by partnering with the most ambitious of game creators, and by unleashing the power of the gaming community, enabling all of us to play the games we want with our friends anywhere, from mobile devices to PCs to consoles. The lineup we have for you today is just incredible. These are the works of the very greatest creative teams from around the world. We made this show for you, the largest, most engaged, and globally diverse fan base in Xbox history. You are the heart and soul of Xbox. Your passion drives us, and you are the inspiration for the visionaries whose games we showcase today. From me and all of the team at Xbox, thank you.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 53 of the Video Game Podcast PlayStation Pals. We thank you for listening as we enter year 2 of the podcast. And who am I joined by? Well, I'm joined by the Jeff Keighley to my Hideo Kojima, John. John, I'm actually going to prop you out right here at the beginning of the show.
I wouldn't do that.
Why?
That's never a good idea. I don't know. What did I do?
John is somehow very, I don't know, he's like a Nostradamus. He's very good at predicting things. I know one of the famous ones is you brought the topic of a new Sony handheld, and then less than a week later, the Backbone was announced. You know,
was that the Backbone or the Q-Lite?
It was the Backbone.
Mm-hmm.
It was last year.
Okay.
So it was the Backbone. And then on this very show, you brought up Pragmata. I believe this is a Capcom game shown, I believe, at the first PS5 showcase, right?
Yeah. It was. I believe it was one of the. I remember it coming or seeing the trailer and it having the one date that seemed incredibly far off, and I think it was 2022. So yeah.
and on this very show, you had brought it up again, and I remember I just dismissing you like, no, that game is dead. We haven't seen it since. The trailer itself was incredibly vague when we saw it years ago, and again, I wish we could record just reactions of certain moments in time. And during the Capcom showcase, when Pragmata showed up, I just was like, I don't believe this.
Did you just throw your hands in the air? Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
Just like, this motherfucker.
Nick, you have yet to embrace your Capcom overlords. They don't miss anymore. So like, you know, if they're going to show something, that means they got something. Right? Even if it was a couple years ago. No, it's not going away. You know, we're getting dinosaurs coming up soon with Exoprimal. That's going to be great. It's going to be an 83. You're going to eat your words with that one as well. You know, I'm sorry that you're talking to the talent, baby. I'm the talent. What can I say? You know, I called Final Fantasy Rebirth being the closer of Keighley as well, I do believe. So
yeah, you're on fire.
Yeah, maybe I did deserve this praise. I'll accept your praise.
I think we should we'll just have a returning segment of you just making predictions for the rest of the year. Just one, like a shower thought.
It's almost like a cursed ability though, because it's never for the things that I want. It's never Bloodborne 2 or Nier Automata 2.
Right.
Oh, although I know this isn't in the news for the show, and I sent it to you, and it's nothing more than just a fart in the wind at this point. But saw the very first little note online of Final Fantasy X remake coming down the pipeline. So, you know, maybe that is the one thing that just is for me. But I won't believe that until I see something confirmed. But
yeah, wasn't that rumor 2026 for or that?
Yeah, that's like, they're saying like, oh, Square Enix is going to have, what is it, Final Fantasy 16 this year, Final Fantasy Rebirth the year after that, Final Fantasy 9 Remake the year after that, and Final Fantasy 10 Remake the year after that. And it's like, the video game people seem to have the memory of a goldfish and forget how long Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15 took. But, maybe they're a new studio. We'll see.
Yeah, and Kingdom Hearts 4 is announced too. So
Right.
So when are all these games coming out?
We'll see.
All right. And then the next thing before we get into the show is I want to issue an apology. I'm just, I'm being really honest. John's been doing really good. And then I also want to say, I listed this game as my low light, but according to everyone that's played it, it's actually really good. And that's the Foam Stars. I'll admit when I'm wrong. Apparently it's good, though. I've never seen a bad preview before. Like, nobody comes out of a game preview and goes, "Oh, this game was trash," including games like Redfall. So
it's true. That's
so
true.
I am a little weary, but I'm just gonna slightly. I'm excited to see what it's like.
Yeah, it's interesting. First off, Nick, it's nice that you're apologetic. You're very vulnerable right now. I appreciate that. But don't be too sorry, man. I mean, I think everybody was wrong on this one, except for that one guy on IGN that we tried to dunk on. So maybe we can apologize to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I just typed in Foam Stars, and it's just like people praising it. Could be fun. It's genuinely different than Splatoon. Foam Stars is nothing like Splatoon. But in the same breath, I'm also seeing some articles that it says it could be great, but it doesn't have a chance. Could be awesome, but are people going to have time for it? Things like that. So hopefully it'll find its niche.
Live service response.
Yep.
That we had to all the Sony live service games.
Yeah, it's a
dangerous. Does it have a chance?
Dangerous place to play.
All right, and then my final thing before we get into the show is it is the 10th anniversary. Actually, it was June 14th of the Last of Us franchise.
Yes.
It came out 10 years ago, and if you remember our top 50 favorite games of all time, the two video games sat at number 2 and 13, so I think that's pretty important to me and John, so I just wanted to shout that out.
It's amazing. Yeah, that franchise, as we get older and get more, into our mid to late 30s, 40s, things like that, I won't date myself too much.
Turn into Joel.
Yeah, we're turning into Joel, but it's like 10 years, it seems like The Last of Us has been around for a hell of a lot longer than that. I don't know if you get that same sense, but it's like it both seems like a long time ago and not like any time ago at all at the same time. I think it's just because that franchise has been so prevalent. We're getting shows, and we're always talking about factions. Last of Us 2 coming out being the drama that thing was, but it's yeah, like you said, one of the most important to us, and I would hope for 10 years more. I know there's some people that will say they don't want to see a Last of Us 3. I think they're going to be, let down if they think that, because they're definitely making a third one. But yeah, it's such a wonderful world. It's not very uplifting, but it's earned its place in the video game pantheon for sure.
Yeah, it's an incredible franchise. As we've talked about, not much more needs to be said.
Well, one more thing to be said, and there was a list that came out of the top 100 games of all time a couple months ago. It was by, I want to say Esquire, but I could be wrong on that. But they basically pulled like 300 of the top developers in the world. So like the people who might know a thing or two about games, and I believe they all voted, and Last of Us came out at number 2. So it's, again, I know it doesn't need more praise and accolades, but yeah.
Yep. So there you go. Happy 10th birthday. All right, so we got a packed show for you, so we're going to move right into it. This is how the show works. John and I both bring 3 things to talk about. It can be a video game we're playing. It can be a news item. It can be an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com, a Twitter DM at PSPalsPod, or any comments on our YouTube page at PlayStation Pals. Any of those things, we bring it and we talk about it for a total of 6 things. And we're going to kick things off with the big showcase of the week, and that was the Xbox Game Showcase and Starfield Direct. If you remember, Xbox is kind of on a downturn. Their big first-party release, Redfall, shit the bed. It is sitting at a 57 on OpenCritic, so
it went down more? Oh no.
Yeah, it is one of the worst reviewed games of all time until Lord of the Rings Golem came out, and is somehow even lower than that. So they're very fortunate in that regard. But And then all of Phil Spencer's comments, he's been kind of out there saying like exclusives don't really matter. If we release exclusives, we wouldn't be on the same level as Sony anyway, so why even do it? Stuff like that. I'm paraphrasing. But so going into the showcase, they really, really had to bring it. And they really had to show off the next big RPG, Bethesda's Starfield. It had to sell you on that as well, and especially after, Bethesda games are known for bugs. So when Redfield comes all bugful and messy, you would think like, oh God, Starfield's going to be even worse. But I want to table the Starfield discussion for now and just talk about the Xbox Game Showcase. What they did bring is 27 games, 11 exclusive games from their studios, and then 11 Game Pass Day 1 games. So, John, you saw it. What were your thoughts of the overall Xbox Game Showcase?
Yeah, I think they did a good job. I think they did even a great job. They obviously had the entire eyes of the industry on them. E3 not really existing in its full, usual form anymore. Just kind of leaves these blank showcases. So all eyes on them on that Sunday, and I think they did what they needed to do. They showed up with some big games like, showing off Cyberpunk 2077, confirming that Star Wars Outlaws, is going to be a big gameplay blowout for the next day at Ubisoft Forward, and a lot of cool little indie games and things here and there as well. I thought 33 Immortals, although I'm not so much of a multiplayer guy, from the team that made Spiritfarer, Thunder Lotus, so I think like it'll be high quality. And then maybe like one of the coolest things I thought of the showcase that was also one of the bigger surprises was just the sheer amount of Atlas that was there. The Japanese presence was kind of, a little. Xbox is famously nowhere in Japan. People in Japan do not give a shit about Microsoft. So to see, one of the most Japanese-centric teams out there with the team that made Persona, to kind of be at the Microsoft showcases, it's kind of cool, and showing off a brand new IP from them, Metaphor ReFantasio, which is quite the name. But I thought it was a good showing, especially with the reception that the PlayStation Showcase had, which was a little down. They definitely did a good job of balancing the momentum away from PlayStation a little bit and more in their favor, even though they are still, I would say, vastly in third place. This is a good start. It's a good start to build the future that they need.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is funny because I think it did have a lot of the problems that the PlayStation Showcase had. Lack of release dates. Avowed, Hellblade, Fable, South of Midnight, Clockwork Revolution, all these first-party games that were shown, no dates. But what was shown was much better than the Sony exclusives. We saw a lot of gameplay for these games.
Yeah, that's the big thing. That's the thing that really makes a difference. It's gameplay, man.
And it seems like the overall showcase was just better curated. Like the games were much bigger, like Atlas is a name that turns head, Yakuza, or not Yakuza, Like a Dragon Infinite Money is a game that will turn heads. And again, and Star Wars,
Infinite
of
Wealth.
Course, Infinite Wealth, thank you.
Yes.
In Japan, it's actually just the normal franchise name 8. I don't know, I forget what it is in Japanese, but yeah. So this is the 8th game in the Yakuza franchise. It just seemed like it was just overall just better curated, better choices of indie games, better choices of third-party games, better Japanese games, better all around. And then just to focus on showing your games better than Sony's, even if, Avowed didn't look as good as I would have hoped, and the Fable, even though it was in-engine, it was very little, but at least it helped capture what the overall feel and look will be of that game. It just seemed like all their games just showed better, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it really did kind of feel like Sony's press conference felt more like a marketing thing that they had to do just because they made some agreements with different people. And Microsoft's felt more like a curated, hey, we're ready to show some things, not because we have to, but because we want to.
Yep.
And it kind of felt that through the show for sure.
Okay, so if you're just gonna, we'll get into Starfield next because I think that'll be a bigger discussion. But if you were to rate this showcase, I think we rated the PlayStation Showcase a 2, Jeff Keighley's thing a 3. What would you rate this showcase?
That's a little. It's a little bit harder. I think if you include Starfield, which you kind of have to,
yes.
I think it's probably a 4. If I'm leaning more towards a 4 than a 3, because I think that they came with a mission and did that mission. They showed good games. They showed gameplay. They had the big franchise, the big first party stuff that they need. They had some big third party stuff as well. Yes, I would have liked to see more dates and a couple things like that, but they even did a good job. And while I personally hate this in showcases, I know it's not everybody does, but showing existing products that are getting updates, whether that's the Return to Monkey Island DLC for Sea of Thieves, or what else was there? I know there was another update to something, can't think of it right now, but like that kind of Cyberpunk maybe, even though we knew it was coming.
Simulator.
Yes, thank you. Even that kind of stuff is always like, all right, thanks. We'll take that for a little bit of filler. So, while it didn't blow my hair back, I think if I was an Xbox fan, I would give this a 4 because it's about as positive as I could feel about the brand that I felt in a long, long time. But it's tough. If you allowed me to have a 10-point scale, it'd be a 7. It'd be a 3.5. So okay.
I'm with you. It's a 4. It was solid. It was really solid. It brought the new games, as we mentioned, and the game. Like you said, you feel more confident in the brand leaving this showcase that throughout this year and then into next year that there'll be more games to play on that platform and on Game Pass day one, of course, which is always a good thing. But all right, so let's move into Starfield. They showed about 50 minutes of Starfield.
That had to have been the deepest dive into any game I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think they did the same with Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 as well, as they just kind of really go into all the systems, because I think that's the only way to show this game well, because it's not going to be very cinematic. The engine just doesn't allow that. But but it's all about the story and the simulation and the building of your ship and your settlements. And I think to get that message across is you really have to go deep into your systems, your backstory, your little traits that you can pick up, and that's what it aimed to do. But John, what do you think of the game?
I think it's going to make a lot of people happy. I think it's, barring any type of buggy messes and situations where the game simply won't run, I think this is exactly what Xbox needed, exactly what people that were looking forward to Starfield were hoping for, and exactly what you would kind of come to expect from a Bethesda game, but made in with today's technology and things like that. Bethesda helped usher in the era of true open worlds. When we think back on the open world experience that we have, you have your Grand Theft Auto 3s, which really kind of started it, but taking what Morrowind and Oblivion did in Fallout 3, making these crazy expansive worlds that you just want to get lost into. This seems like the evolution of that, where you're going to... They love to throw around the 1,000 planet thing. That thing to me is a negative, but we'll get into that in a second. But showing the city of New Atlantis and just the sheer amount of breadth that there is to this game is quite frankly staggering. Whether it's you want to be the guy that's just going down the main mission and you want to do this thing, great. Do you want to go find a new planet, build an outpost, and create this crazy trade system? Great. Are you a guy who likes to really get into the space sim thing, build your ship the way you want to, and kind of have this base of operations while you explore the galaxy? You can do that too. It's just, for me personally, if I was 15 again, yes, but I don't have the time for this kind of game anymore, and I think it's going to be good, but if I were to offer up any type of worry, it's that, and I like to use this analogy a lot, and I like, I like food a lot. Food's one of my favorite things. So when I go to a restaurant and I see a menu, and that menu has 5 or 6 things on it, but that's it. I go, okay, cool. I know that they're focused, and like this shit's probably gonna be great. But if I go to a place and they have everything under the sun, pasta, they got pizza, they got seafood, they got chicken dishes, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's probably all fine, but it doesn't blow my hair back. And I've come to the realization in my life that I want an experience like Hades. It's a little more tight, and they're focused. You're going and getting what you want. This is the exact opposite end of the spectrum of that. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It's just, it's going to be a lot. And I worry that, after you've explored 20, 25, 30 planets, and you kind of. I hope their procedural generated stuff is good, but like, is there a reason for me to keep exploring, or am I now going to just default into, well, I need this specific resource, this planet has it, go there, jump off, go there, jump off. And I'll hop it over to you, Nick, because I could keep going. But like, it seems really cool, just a lot going on.
Yeah, it's funny. If you remember, we actually talked about this game in our very first episode. It was one of the 6 things. And it's funny
how do you remember these things? Do you like comb our notes before every show?
No. But sometimes I look back and... Okay. And I remember us talking about this because I remember it was shown a year ago too. And it's funny that all of our fears are kind of the same. I don't think that this presentation alleviated that. And that is that, since Fallout 4, RPGs have moved forward a lot, and again, I'm obviously a big Cyberpunk fan. Like when you show the trailer for Cyberpunk and then you compare that to the trailer for Starfield, it's like, holy cow. Like it's like what it is. It's like, this is a game that takes place, 8 years after Fallout 4, where Starfield, and especially within the person to person and the character models and everything else is just, it's very lifeless. Yeah. And this looks the same. Like if this is the same engine in space, I'm really worried. And that's what this looks like. It's the same engine in space. So, yeah. And I'm like you. I think if someone's going to go in there and just like Fallout 4 and they get obsessed with settlement building and all the little micromanagement that goes with that will be here in spades. And like you said about the planets, I think that's what's going to happen is like planets will just become canvases for you to build bases, for you to collect resources, to build, I'm sure the Starfield subreddit will be full of just the most elaborate shipbuildings and the elaborate outposts that you can possibly imagine. But that's not why you and I play games, and it's going to be very hard for us to get sucked into this, even if it is running immaculately, because as also has come out, this is a 30 FPS game, which I don't think it's going to matter when the game comes out, because it's just going to be doing so much that it's going to get the pass that I think like a Tears of the Kingdom gets, is like when 80 other systems are just wildly creative and wildly fun to play with, that you'll come to look over the character models, look over the outdated engine and other things. But I mean, if I was to come away from this, is like, I'm not excited for Starfield either. So. Yeah,
it's almost a little relief, a little off my shoulders, where it's like I'm not going to be worried about trying to crunch this game in with everything else. Right. But that's not, again, I don't want the takeaway to be that we think this game looks bad, or at least my takeaway that I don't think it looks bad. It's just, when you're going to make a great game, it seems like they're just definitely trying to go for the sum of all the parts equals a 10 approach, when I don't typically vibe with that style more, where it's like, again, if you can explore all these planets, okay, your exploration could be cool. But now we're going to talk about narrative. And when you start to meet your crewmates and they have those dumb Bethesda faces, it's really going to be hard to kind of get into a narrative that's meaningful and that's worthwhile. So like, the story might be meh. I'll admit the combat sections looked pretty stiff. Fallout 4, I don't think anybody would argue that one of the worst parts of that game is the actual shooting mechanics. It just doesn't feel good. And so I just, can you put all the sum of these together into an amazing product that people walk away with saying like, oh my God, I can't wait to go back and play more? Or is it going to be like, well, everything is pretty okay, so I'll spend 2 weeks in this and then I'll find something else. But
yeah, I think that'll be the people that are going to get really into it, because they're going to be into those systems that are going to take a long time and be very elaborate. And then there's going to be the people that will probably play through it and be done with it. And yeah, I think that's kind of where they're at. I mean, if the goal of Game Pass is engagement in your games, this is probably really good for it.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, this will easily climb #1 downloaded, #1 total playtime, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
but it's interesting, yeah, because you and I don't really want to play it, but I think it is the game that will at least. I don't know if it's going to save the brand, but it will prolong people's good faith in the brand for sure, I think.
Okay. So do you think this game will review well?
Yes, I do. I think it'll be. I think Fallout 4 was like an 87, something like that. Okay. I think it'll be between an 85 and a 90.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, again, it seems like in games like this, they'll be forgiving about bugs.
Yeah. So they
I
always are, and you always take this stuff at face value, but they've said, like, if Starfield were to come out today, it would already be the least buggy game at launch. But of course they're going to say that. They're not going to be like, yeah, we have a long way to go. But so if it can at least get up to a point where it's not going to be Redfall levels, like you said, the 30 frames a second, I guarantee everybody's going to immediately forget about that, and when it comes out, it's not going to matter with the type of game it is.
And it doesn't matter on PC anyway. So
right. So. Yeah, I think it will review well. I think it'll be a pretty big hit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it won't be Tears of the Kingdom level, but it'll be in the conversation for Game of the Year for sure.
Yeah.
But we'll see. To be honest, it could go either way too. I don't know.
God, that is something that's worth a conversation. We don't have to have that today, but like, yeah, what happens if that game gets reviewed at a 71 or a 69? That would be crazy. But right. What happens in that situation? I don't think it would. But we also thought Redfall was going to be great.
Yeah, you sell your Xbox. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's.
Or at least you can buy a PlayStation at that point, because you're going to play Spider-Man a month later. So,
yep.
All right.
Yeah, I am.
So let's move on. We're going to talk about our highlights of the showcases now. So since we last recorded, there has been quite a few showcases. There was Days of the Dev, there was the Xbox Game Showcase, there was Ubisoft Forward, and there was a Capcom Showcase. And then there was even small other ones sprinkled in there. But I wanted to talk about just our highlights, individual announcements or showings that occurred during that time since we last recorded that spoke out to us. And I'll let you kick things off, John. What is your first highlight?
Sure. So shockingly enough, I've talked a lot of bad about this studio on this show. I don't typically vibe with their games all that much, and I think they've got a lot of soul searching to do. But I think one of the highlights of this showcase season was Ubisoft kind of showing their path back to relevance. I think between Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar, they both look exceptionally high quality with like a true next-gen feel to them. And they need some big fucking games to really get back into the good graces of things. They still have a lot of things to figure out with their Assassin's Creed franchise. Funnily enough, maybe one of my lowlights might revolve around that as well. But I think between showing these two games gives them a path back into the good graces of fans and show people that, like, hey, we are still able to do these open world games that you love. I think Outlaws is going to be fucking huge. And I think it's one of the only times I can remember in a long, long time where I walked away from a Ubisoft anything where I go, okay, all right, you guys got some. And it's not just Skull and Bones and X Defiant anymore, which is right. Like, what are you guys going? Do you guys have to have something? So I wanted to shout them out for those two especially. Yeah,
it seems like Ubisoft has kind of been silent for a while, but this Ubisoft Forward kind of really put a path ahead for their releases. I think they have the Crew game is in September. They got Assassin's Creed Mirage in October, and then Avatar. What's the
Frontiers of Pandora?
Thank you. Frontiers of Pandora coming out in December. That this fall could be quite good for them if those games all hit. And like you said, I was talking to you not on the podcast, but the Far Cry formula is pretty boring. But if you put that Avatar paint over it, it's like, wow, this is this could be really interesting. And Far Cry on an alien planet is a whole nother ball game, like that's.
Oh yeah. You add that element to it. I mean, it is kind of interesting analyzing it in that way. That, I mean, it definitely is Far Cry Avatar. Like, that's what it is. Yeah. But it's even like Star Wars Outlaws. It's like, is that like Star Wars Division? I don't know. It looked like there was definitely a lot more going on when you had the ship and all that stuff. But at least the shooting, since this is the massive team, they kind of are relying on the things and maybe the franchises that got them into this, into the big boy arena in the first place. But, putting these skins on them that attached franchises that people absolutely love. It just might be a easy, safe way to put out some 80, 85 level games that people just want to, play around with for 60, 70 hours. And you get out of the Skull and Bones X-Defiant type news coverage and actually get some positivity going.
Sure. And we'll just move into my highlight because it is Star Wars Outlaws.
I figured.
Because this is definitely my game of the show by far. Game of the whole season, the whole the whole E3 season here is that's how you show a game, right? You do a nice fancy CG trailer, 3 minutes at the big Xbox showcase, and then you have a 10-minute gameplay demo the next day at the Ubisoft Forward. It was just, my mind was blown. That game looks incredible because not only is it open world, I guess I can explain what the game is. It's a third-person action game. It has stealth elements. You swap BD1 for a furry creature that you can command to do things like distract enemies.
Baby cat Yoda.
Yeah. And then you have the open world, which there's not just one open world. There's several open worlds, the planets that you can go to. And how do you get to them? Well, you don't just fast travel like you do in Jedi Survivor. You actually fly your ship off the planet and go into orbit and fight other TIE fighters and other spaceships. And then you go into hyper light speed and you arrive at the other planet and you go down. This game looks incredible.
Yeah. Star Wars fans' wet dream for sure. Which, I'm definitely happy for you. And if it's good enough, I want to play it for sure as well. It looks really, really cool, and I'm not a big Star Wars guy, but if you're into this world, man, how can you ask for more? Something I didn't really realize, this is the very first Star Wars open world game. It's that alone is huge. And when you couple it up with some awesome next gen type, off ship space combat stuff, and if you can tell an interesting, cool story that the Star Wars fans want to vibe with, you got a recipe for success, my dude.
Yeah, and even in that brief demo, we got to see you have choices in the game. The character had the choice to bribe an Imperial officer and chose not to, and it had repercussions immediately. They had a wanted level. Your character's face was plastered all over the screens, and she had to get off the planet in a hurry. But that's how you show a game. It really is that to a T. That is how every game should be announced and shown. So
you think of that compared to something like Hellblade, and it's all right. So you showed us this game 4 years ago. you showed us 2 trailers since. We still don't have a date. It's what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
Just take your time. Wait till you have something. Show us, and have it out a year later. Happy campers. Easy.
Yeah.
Done.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is good to know that the rumors that this game was a lot further along are true. That game does look. It looks on track for next year, for sure.
For sure.
All right.
So my second highlight is a brand new IP from the Persona team. I mentioned a little bit here.
We got us a boondoggle.
Got a boondoggle? Man, is that back-to-back boondoggles? The Persona team is one of the highest level developers in the world. Their review scores speak for themselves. So to get a brand new IP by that team, with a wacky fucking ideas that they have, how could you not want to pay attention to it? I hate the name, but I'll forgive that. That's fine.
You didn't say the name. What's the name?
Metaphor Refantasio.
Yes.
Ugh. But I totally trust them, and I know they're going to keep making Personas, so that we'll be able to look forward to Persona 6. And if you can implement another IP that pleases that crowd, that you don't have to wait 7 or 8 years for in between, that's fucking awesome. So and totally unsuspected. So cool to see.
Apparently Katsura Hoshino, the director of Persona 5, right after that game, he left to. Well, he didn't leave Atlas, but he left to make a new studio, and this is their first project, and it looks like it could be in the Persona universe, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
You got the Personas, you got oozing with style. Oh my God. Every time they bring up a menu, you're just like, oh my God. Visually, it's just incredible. And just like Persona 5, I highly recommend you watch the trailer. It is a lot of quick cuts. It's a lot of, anime screaming and, out of context imagery, but it looks awesome. It looks great, and I'm really excited to see what they do and a fantasy version of Persona. So
Yeah, they better get Lynn involved with the soundtrack, though. That's all I gotta say.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, no. But hey, next year when we're drafting our fantasy leagues, Nick, you and I, we got to keep this one close to our vest. Everybody's not gonna know what this is, and they're not gonna, well, unless they do some research. But it's gonna be a good one for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you in the fantasy game critic that we use for our fantasy league, you get like kind of when you go to draft a game, you get kind of like hype factor, right? Like like if you're not sure what to pick, it'll kind of say, well, what is everyone else in the other leagues picking? And I wonder if this game will be at the top, just because
it'll be the highest one that people go, huh?
Like, what is this?
Huh? So.
Yeah. All right, so you stole one of my highlights, so
all right,
so I'll go into my last one here, and a shocker, it is a Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty.
I wrote down an extra one because I knew you would do this one as well. So we'll say a boondoggle, but I have another one, so take it away, Nick.
Yeah. So it was shown at the Xbox Game Showcase again. With Keanu Reeves, I love that he's still attached to this. This wasn't like, he did the base game years ago and now he's gone. He's here again, hyping it.
Can I just say he seemed very weird on stage? Like, is that just a Keanu Reeves thing? I'm not that into the dude, but like his whole hey, leaning forward, like he's so goofy. I like him, but he's just
I wonder
goofy.
if it is part of just his normal persona that we just don't get to see. We're always used to John Wick Keanu Reeves or the Matrix Keanu Reeves, that we're not used to this. But to see him there means that again, this expansion's no joke. Like he's going to have a big involvement in it. Idris Elba's going to have a big involvement in it. It's cost $30. It is coming September 26, 2023. Thank you. I'm so excited for that. That's awesome. And the trailer was great. It was phenomenal. But then it was everything that came out after it was shown that is even more wild, is that they're basically revamping the entire game. I have told John, you just might as well wait now. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's going to be obviously all the normal stuff, the new areas, new weapons, new clothing, and all that stuff, but they're reworking everything. New skills, new skill trees. Clothing no longer affects stats. Clothing is just clothing. It's all about your cyberware now. They're adding cutscenes for all the cyberware you install in the game. Cyberware, if you put in too much cyberware, you can go cyber psycho. What does that even mean for you as the player? There's going to be additional endings. There's going to be the whole world's going to change. They're going to have more random things, so the city's going to feel more alive. They're changing how the wanted system works. If you're out there killing people, the cops are going to respond appropriately now. And just what?
Yep, that's what I wrote down. I wrote down Cyberpunk ... better late than never.
Yes,
it seems like this is the vision they originally wanted for the game, and that they're finally getting around to being able to put it out should be very exciting for any Cyberpunk fan out there for sure.
Yeah, it's a reason to play it again. If you played it at launch, you might think about just playing through the whole game again, because holy cow!
Yeah, I mean,
or playing for your first time.
I was gonna say, how long's Phantom Liberty gonna be?
Yeah.
I mean, that could be 50 hours in and of itself, knowing CD Projekt Red. I mean, Blood and Wine was what? That was a good 30.
Yeah,
it was a beefy
I think if
one.
you did everything, you would probably be reaching close to 30.
And that was the bigger of the two, right? Or was
that was a new region, and it's kind of very similar to this, a new region, a whole other land to explore. So, it's. And I'm not even listing everything off. There's all kinds of stuff. Vehicle combat is going to be a thing now, and all kinds of stuff. You can wield a katana on a motorcycle and chop people down. So
no way. All right, why didn't you lead with that?
I should have.
Motorcycle katana done.
Well, I mean, we obviously write notes for the show, and my notes for this update are just huge. So I'm just I'm cherry picking what I should say. But again, how you show an expansion, all this is great news. CD Projekt's Red's redemption. I think it will be complete with this release, and I think people can. I mean, if the game releases poorly, that's another thing. But
I was gonna say, what if this one's broken too? Oh no!
But I think it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I should have took down his name. The director of Phantom Liberty, Jason Schreier, interviewed him at Bloomberg, where he casually just dropped that, hey, after I'm done with Phantom Liberty, I'm going on to a sequel to Cyberpunk. Like, yeah. I'm making the sequel to this game after this. That's my next goal. So was
it Gabe Amatangelo?
Yes,
that's a weird name.
Yes. So awesome stuff. I'm over the moon. Is perfect release date. Everything said here, amazing. So
nice. All right, and then my last one. This is quick because I just Todd Howard put the entire team on his back and perhaps saved Xbox. We already talked about Starfield, but they did what they needed to do. And anybody who was looking forward to the game is going to be happy. Anybody who was on the fence is probably going to at least check it out. So I gotta, I think that was the number one story going into this season is what is that game going to be? How is it going to be received? How is it going to play out? How's it going to show? Things like that. And coming out the other side, I think, they did a good job. So just want to put that. I did put an honorable mention about Pragmata showing back up, but you stole my thunder with that one. So, but I think I will say that the small trailer they had for Pragmata did look pretty badass as well. So I'm excited about that game. But yeah, Todd Howard, I don't like the guy, but he continually shows games off well, and
he could sell anything, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's just something about him, though,
whatever he did.
As
long as it's in sales.
Do you get a feeling from him though? I get that slimy feeling from him. No disrespect. He doesn't care what I have to say about him, but I just get that feeling like, you're not telling me something. You're hiding something, buddy.
It'll be interesting if he's still at Bethesda after this game releases. That is my curious thought, that he's going to leave to do his own thing.
Yeah, maybe. Did you see that, completely unrelated, did you see Dan Houser announce a new team?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Dan Houser, he's the guy who co-founded Rockstar, so Grand Theft Auto, he left, what was that, a couple years ago, 2 years ago maybe?
Yeah, it was after Red Dead 2.
Yeah, so. He found his new one, so yeah, he could go that same path for sure, he's that level.
Yep, and with Shinji Mikami just leaving Tango Gameworks, I think.
Kojima.
Yep, I think the writing's on the wall for the big names to do their own thing, so we'll see.
Spread your wings. Spread your wings, Todd.
Yeah. All right, so we did our highlights. Let's move into our lowlights. So these are the things we did not like. And, we put Atlas in our highlights. I'm going to put an Atlas announcement in my lowlights. And that is Persona 3 Reloaded. Obviously, the idea of taking an older Persona game and bringing it to the Persona 5 Unreal Engine, that's a great idea, right? That's perfect.
Yeah.
And you would think that the game they would choose would be, like, if they were doing this to Persona 5, they would pick the Persona 5 Royal Edition, right? Like, they'd pick the better version, right? But no, they're not going to do that. So Persona 3 itself got two different editions. It got the Fez edition, which is very much like Royal. They fixed things. I think it had an extra epilogue. And then they also did Persona 3 Portable, which let you choose your gender at the beginning of it. You could play as a male or female protagonist. But no, we're not doing those. Even those are the two better versions of the game. We're gonna go back to the base game, and the base game is the one that we're gonna bring to.
Why? I didn't know that. Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring you down on that game, but it brought me down.
I wonder if they're doing a thing like, look, if we get this one out, we have most of the work done. We can then do the other one and then sell it again. I could see that being a path forward, which is dumb. That's dumb. I didn't know that.
It's probably easier too, right? The one with the less content to go back to. But I just like the work's done. Do the proper one. Do Persona 3 Portable. So.
Yeah, if you made all those games in Persona 5 style, I think you'd have a hard time not playing through every one of them at this point. So, is it enough to make you not want to play it?
I don't know. I don't really know. Like I can look more into the differences. I don't know. I really don't know on this one, but yeah, we'll see.
No, just get an Xbox and get Game Pass, and you can play it, Nick. You can check it out.
True. Day one. Yeah.
And kind of on the same path. This one more just annoyed me. It wasn't really the low light, but I'll start off with it because it's silly. I hated when Phil goes, "We heard you. We know there's not enough space on your Xbox Series S."
That's
And we found a solution, Nick. Do you know what the solution is? Buy a new one. Yeah. Buy a new one. So we made a black one for you. It's $350, and it has the terabyte you want. We're not going to give you a solution to fix it, but buy a new one. And I hated the way that it was presented of like, hey, we're look at us. We're here for the consumer. And Xbox usually is. They're very pro-consumer, very consumer-friendly. It's just this one, I don't know. It's just, it seemed very corporate-y, very bullshittery, and just like, all right, man, you don't need to pull the wool over our eyes and put a gold plate shit on the table for us. We know what you're doing. Just say you got a black one for us. Hey, look, they got a terabyte now, but you didn't fix shit. All right, you didn't fix shit.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me. I said that's a boondoggle. So
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I had this as well, and I think, like you said, it's just the verbiage they use. This is not fixing a problem if you have an Xbox Series S, and an external storage solution would. And if you're not familiar, the Xbox Series S is the digital-only, less powerful version of the Xbox platform. So, more space is a good thing on a digital-only console, but telling me to get it, I have to buy the same console again is absurd. Don't pitch it that way. Just don't pitch it. Just say we have a new child in the Xbox family, with this another sibling that complements our base Series S and our Xbox Series X. You don't say we have a storage solution for existing consumers. Like, come on, that's stupid. Don't do that.
And I wonder how many Series S's are out there. I'm sure it's definitely in the millions. It's like, but yeah, you want to do that. I know it would be impossible. It's probably not practical at all, but maybe offer in a trade-in system where hey, mail us your shit. We'll send you a new one with the terabyte, pay $200, $100. I don't know. That's probably completely unrealistic, but that would be the type of thing where it's like, hey, we figured it out for you, or we have a new thing that you can plug in or whatever.
Right.
Just, not buy a new one. Come on. Come on, Todd or Phil. Come on, Phil.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So once again, you stole one of mine. So we'll move into my next one. We kind of closed out the last show with some predictions, and John made a horrible, horrible prediction that would just made my skin crawl, and that is if Capcom returned to Mega Man Legends. But and I didn't think it could get any worse, but they went there. They made it worse at the Capcom showcase. They went to the version of Mega Man I love the most, the Mega Man X franchise, and they announced Mega Man X Dive Offline. And what this game is a mobile gacha game. So, Fire Emblem Heroes or Genshin or anything else, the idea of characters become loot boxes. That's exactly what this is, so they took all the characters from the Mega Man X franchise, and of course made a bunch of sexy female versions to add to this. And we have a mobile gacha game coming to Android and iOS, I believe, later this year. You don't do that to me. You don't play the Mega Man X music, which is excellent. You don't show the Mega Man X character designs that are excellent, and you don't show this. I don't know. I hate this.
Did Keiji Inafune sign off on this? I feel like he would want to be a little bit more protective of his IP, because it seems like this stands for everything that Mega Man is not. I'm just looking at just images. First off, do you know what kind of game is this? What is the moment to moment gameplay? Do we know?
They showed it in the video, but who cares? Who really cares?
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. But yeah, that's disappointing. That's disrespectful of an OG franchise. You don't do that to.
And they're not the only ones doing this. I don't want to single out Capcom. I believe Sega or someone has one out there too as well. That's just very similar. It's just they're trying to get out on this new trend of.
This is what happens when things make money. You see all the imposters come out. So yeah.
And gacha games are full of Android and iOS stores are full of gacha games. There's so many.
Yep.
Well,
let's stay on the cell phone route. My second low light is developers' insistence on putting major franchises on mobile, but marketing them to big time gamers. I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed. What are we doing putting out a new Assassin's Creed on mobile and then setting it in China, a cool setting that people would love to have had, instead of get a lot of this Middle East stuff that we keep getting? And it's just, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of putting these games, and them selling it like, oh, look, we got the next big release in the Assassin's Creed franchise. And in fairness, they're doing, major style games as well that are going to be hitting consoles at the same time. It's not like this is taking the place of a game. And I don't even care about Assassin's Creed, but it's just, are we ever going to see the death of like big properties on mobile, or is that just something we live with in perpetuity, Nick? Because I am so sick of it.
Well, they're not going to kill consoles, mobile devices, but they certainly are going to take our franchises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't
none of these are
imagine
going to stick. I don't know.
Yeah, I like, who are these for? And maybe this is middle-aged white man sitting in the United States syndrome, and there's a huge market for people that play or only have access to mobile games in other places of the world. But it's just like, who wants to play an Assassin's Creed game on their phone? I don't even know how that could possibly work with unless if you have a backbone. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of weird little things that they put into it to dumb it down or whatever. But I'm just sick of it. That's all.
Yeah, no, this was potential to be on there, but then I remember they did announce this last year too, like they confirmed this was a mobile game. But yeah, it sucks to see it. It sucks to see, like you said, and all we want is an Eastern set Assassin's Creed game, like a full blown normal release of an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan or China, But nope, can't get it. Not on the platform of choice.
I mean, that isn't, was it Red? Is that the Japan one, like, that they're making? Aren't they doing one right now?
Yes. That is one of the 6 projects they announced for Assassin's Creed.
And that we're finally getting, probably around Ghost of Tsushima 2 and Rise of Ronin and all these other games that, are going to scratch that itch, but it's fine. I already praised Ubisoft, so, at least they're doing some things right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're kind of done. This is it for our discussion on the E3. E3 in quotes.
Wait, that was only 2 of my lowlights. What happened?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Did we have? Because we had a boondoggle. All right, real quick.
Sorry.
My third lowlight, Avowed. I thought, it didn't look horrible, but this was not the game that I envisioned when they first showed it off, and perhaps I should have known better because this is Obsidian we're talking about, but I just question, first off, why was this game greenlit under Xbox? Because this seems Skyrim light through and through, and they
bought Obsidian before they bought Bethesda.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
That's probably why.
You're right. But it's when they first showed off this game, they kind of showed this cool sword in a dungeon setting. I think there was like kind of a dragon off camera that was breathing fire, and you saw the glow come through the door. I'm like, ooh, this could be like a really dark, gritty, cool first person type of fantasy game. And it really does seem like it's just Skyrim light, where it's going to play like the Outer Worlds, but and just be that kind of vibe though in a small condensed setting. And it just was a little disappointing. I'm sure the writing's going to be great, but for somebody who didn't really care for the Outer Worlds, just a little disappointing. So I was kind of hoping more for when we saw that game again.
Yeah, I think something with the art direction is off. It seems boring and generic.
Yeah.
It's not really standing on its own 2 feet against its direct comparison, like you said, Skyrim. So it is kind of disappointing in that regards. I agree with you.
Yeah. So, well, that's it.
Okay, sorry.
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off
fine.
there, but you throw me off when you steal my lowlights and highlights. So yeah, again, so this is kind of it. There is no events. I mean, there'll be events toward the end of summer, but this is kind of it for E3 season. So from the Sony showcase till now, how do you feel about it overall?
I mean, I'd very meh, like not disappointed, not blown away. I, still feel like, this is a PlayStation show, right? So that's where my brain immediately goes. I still feel like we have a pretty bad idea of what our future as PlayStation gamers looks like, outside of Spider-Man. So I wish to know a little bit more about that, but, it was a good showing. We got to see updates from games that Xbox has been talking about for a while now. That was important. Starfield, and we now have a concrete, plan of seeing Spider-Man 2 was definitely a highlight of the season, and getting the date was weird that it wasn't at the showcase, but whatever, we got the date. So yeah, I mean the whole year as a whole, it's a 3 out of 5 kind of year for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I did like that it kind of did what it always is supposed to do, right? It fills out the fall. I got it kind of I know the games that I want to play and the games that I'm excited for, and they're kind of spread out through the fall. And then I also have games to get really hyped for next year, with the Outlaws and Metaphor de Fantasio, and so there was a good mix, and it feels like a more return to form of the great E3s of past. At the very least, it's getting really close. I really would love Sony and Microsoft to go the day, the Microsoft showcase to be on Sunday and Sony to go on Monday. How things used to really be head to head, and I really, if Sony had brought it, it probably would have been exactly a return to form. But
if Sony was there in more of a first party presence, I think we'd be feeling a little bit differently. But it's just for me, it's like there isn't really one game that showed up anywhere that I'm like, oh my god, I have to play this. Like honestly, Final Fantasy 16's could be counted maybe, but outside of that, it's like, I'm going to be playing games, for the rest of my life, but like there's nothing that I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait. But,
sure. Okay. Yep. Till next year.
Was there any games that like you can't believe weren't shown at, like is there any game that comes to mind that you can't believe was not anywhere?
That's a good question.
Not to put you on the spot.
That are already announced? No, I don't think there's anything that I'm like, oh, I'm surprised it wasn't here. I mean, as we talked about with the Sony showcase, it's kind of everything that I thought would be there is not there. I mean, we didn't get Persona 6, but we got Metaphor, so I think that kind of filled that void. But like, what has Sony been doing? What are the other first party teams doing? Where's Factions? It seems like most of our like question marks now have moved to Sony, and not to say Microsoft, same thing. I mean, they announced so many games still that were not shown. Contraband, Indiana Jones, again, another correct prediction by John. Indiana Jones was not there. But but definitely more on Sony as far as like what are your other teams doing?
Sure. Yeah, well, we'll see. We might get there's people talking about maybe another showcase later in the year. That would be wonderful, but we'll see. For me, I'm surprised we haven't really seen anything from Armored Core 6 yet. I mean, that's the one game I'm like, okay, it's coming up soon. There's really no more showcases. When do we see that one? So
yeah, especially with it. So after Summer Game Fest, they had kind of like a days of play, and it was there. Like people had a lot of impressions of it, playing it, but it's weird that it didn't at least show up in a good amount at a showcase, and yeah, when we're not watching like a 10-minute gameplay demo of Armored Core, like seeing how you customize a mech, and that's like one of the most imminent releases too. So
I think FromSoft has just like reached a level of developerhood where they're like, we don't give a fuck. You're gonna buy our game.
Yeah, they're at Rockstar level.
Yeah, exactly. We don't care.
Yeah, exactly. We're making the game we want to make. Yep. We gave you Elden Ring. Leave us alone.
You'll buy it. You'll like it even if you don't know it.
Yeah. So again, it's like it's nice to see. Yeah, if Armored Core 6 hits, to go from that and Phantom Liberty and Alan Wake and Spider-Man, and then possibly maybe Avatar. Like it's good to have a couple options, and that's not even counting the indie game surprises or the PlayStation Plus Extra games that are going to be announced. Hopefully, we get some more day and date games for PlayStation Plus Extra. So it's shaping up to be good. I'm happy.
Yes, Nick. Well, I know there's lots to look forward to, but we got a game in 6 days, Nick, that I think both of us are going to be playing an incredible amount of, and that game is Final Fantasy 16. We were treated to a demo that hit the store a couple days ago.
Yeah, Monday.
This was first off kind of annoying because like I was hoping, we've been predicting a demo for a while. Every time it's shown at a showcase, and then it doesn't come, but they still didn't let us down. They still decided to drop one, and I don't know, man. Do you want to just start? This game is going to be fucking huge.
Yeah. So, just a little context. I'll put this out there. I didn't know that your save progress carries over. So I'm an idiot. I did not know that. So I got about I don't know, like 45 minutes in. There's a lot of cutscenes, so I'm not sure how much I watched. But right after the tutorial fight, and it was going into more cutscenes, that I was like, nope. You sold me. You sold me with the giant battle at the beginning. That was something out of God of War Ragnarok. Like it was just like holy fuck! Like there's so much going on here. And then there's a lot of this game's being compared to Game of Thrones a lot, and rightfully so. One lady went to the other guy and called him a cock. I thought that was hilarious. that made me laugh out loud. I'm like, video games just don't call people cocks in video games,
especially Final Fantasy.
And I was just intrigued in the whole situation because the guy that she called a cock is another dominant, which is the people that can turn into these big summons from Final Fantasy, and then they just start making out and basically fucking in a hallway. And then they fight each other 2 seconds later. So I was all absorbed in the kind of the political intrigue, the kind of back deals and backwards relationships that are gonna just cause havoc for the people of this world, Yeah. And then when I was just playing that little combat tutorial, I'm like, this feels great.
Yeah.
The parry system or the dodge system with R1. That if you perfectly time, the enemy slows down, and then just the range combat and then the close combat, it all was just it felt great. It doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy game combat wise, but it still feels amazing. And they got all the Final Fantasy staples in there. You see chocobos, you're using fire magic.
Just hearing the music in certain sections, it will always send chills down my spine. I don't know what it is about the certain themes and motifs that you hear in the Final Fantasy world, but when they play it,
sounds like you're teasing what the end song is for this podcast. Might be from that game.
Oh,
from this game.
But.
And also, just a side note is that I instantly recognized the voice actor for Joshua Rossfield, who is played by Logan Hannon, who was Hugo in a Plague Tale series, and he's excellent. He's a great voice actor, and all the voice acting in this has been top notch. It's almost incredible that this is an Eastern game with Western voice acting. That's just incredible. I think we're over the day where it's I prefer the sub over the dub. How would you not listen to this and be like, I got to play this version of the audio?
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I did. I started Japanese because that's what I usually do. I go, you know what? Let me check out English because, Final Fantasy X, I loved that. I didn't listen to that in Japanese and I'm sticking with this one.
Yeah.
I just read a story that the development team actually had to watch through the Game of Thrones series before they started making this game, or at least during development. So you're going to definitely see a lot of stuff I think that we're used to if you are familiar with that series. But I'm with you, man. From top to bottom, everything that this game has done in the demo is proven to me that it's going to be one of the classics. I believe on this very show I said that this one seems to be shaping up to be one of those all-timer Final Fantasy games. But they just have the all-star dream team, and I think they're all bringing their A game. The Devil May Cry combat director making the combat
we need to learn his name.
We do need to learn
by next week. We need to know his name.
But like you said, it's perfect. It's a very smooth, easy to understand, exciting combat system that does kind of feel like an evolution to what they started to do with the Final Fantasy VII remake, or actually it really started with Final Fantasy 15 with the more action combat. I like the combat system in Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I'd be lying if I said there weren't moments where I felt like I was not really in control of what was going on. Right? I'm just smashing buttons. I'm hoping that I'm healing in a quick enough time. I'm hoping that my fire attack's going to hit him before I get hit and lose all my health. And it really seems like this one fine-tunes that, to allow you to lock onto enemies. The ranged fire abilities, with the up-close sword feels so good. Having Circle be this teleportation, movement thing, on top of the parry system with R1. It's like, and I know that eventually once you start to get different dominance and things, you're going to be able to change up, the different elements and change up different abilities and things. We're just scratching the surface with what we got to play, and it already feels amazing. Like you said, the sense of scale. I'm a big Attack on Titan fan. I got such Attack on Titan vibes during that Titan versus Shiva thing. So I'm in there. If I were to critique it at all, I think it did seem a little. I hope that it's a little more seamless maybe once you really start to get into the game with the amount of interruptions with cutscenes. It was very, very, very intrusive in the first bit. I was fine with it because I want to absorb myself in this world and start to learn the different names of the places, the names of the characters and things like that. But it did seem a little heavy with that, so I hope it lets you play it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest pet peeves of video games is giving you control of the character. You're just there to walk maybe 20 feet to lose control of the character again and go into another cutscene.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm hoping that was more like, I think, I don't know if they ever confirmed that this is literally just cut from the beginning of the game and you play. I
think so. With your progress carrying over, I'm almost positive that's what's happening.
That's the only reason that I think so as well. But it almost does seem like this is like a curated demo to like just really ease you into it. But it might just be the overall thought process for the whole game. But and the other thing that I hope, and I'm sure it will flesh itself out, but the characters seem a little boring to me so far. Everybody's we're all very serious knights, and everything's so serious, and I'm sure that'll be fine. But the one guy that I kind of latched onto, he seemed to be like a little sidekick when the world's crumbling during the Titan versus Shiva fight, and he's just going, oh fuck, which I just similar to your calling her a cock or him a cock. I was just like, I'm not used to the F bomb being dropped in the Final Fantasy world, and then he immediately gets squished. So I'm like, all right, there goes any levity. But I'm sure that'll flesh itself out as you carry out throughout the game. But I think this is going to be one of the big ones, man, and I can't wait to play the whole thing. Yeah,
did you play in performance or graphics mode?
Always performance. I've switched to that full stop. Unless if I don't know, a Digital Foundry or somebody's out there telling me not to. It feels so much better. But
and you played further than I did. Did you complete the whole demo?
No, so I didn't either. I very similarly to this has only happened to me twice, where I've played a demo and stopped it because I was sold. But one of the other games that did that was Final Fantasy VII Remake, where I'm like, nope, this is good, I'm in. But I got a little bit further. I got to where you start to be able to control Joshua, the little boy, or the younger brother. You start to get to control him, and he, being that he is a dominant, obviously very powerful, even if he doesn't believe it or know it yet, you could feel that immediately. Your melee attack was just this like fire slash thing that looked way cooler than anything Clive was doing. And you had I think if you hit circle, you did Curaga, and there was just there was a couple other abilities you had, but it did also in a way seem like, hey, you're not going to control this guy for very long. He's really, really OP. We just want to show you he's OP, and then you're not going to play him again. But I know I was sold, man. I want to just jump right in, do the whole thing when it comes out in six short days. Yeah, I'm curious. Obviously, I'm curious about how it's going to review, but I think, like you said, I think just everything here is just falling into place. The music, the art style, the voice acting, and then when the combat's going to be just feel that good, and you're going to be doing a lot of it, you're sold, and it is kind of. It's kind of weird because, this is a big deal. This is a numbered Final Fantasy game. Like, this is number 16. It's been 8 years, I think, dude. I think 15 came out in 15, didn't it? I don't remember, but that sounds about right. This is a huge deal. So 26, it's kind of like I'm not even kind of like mentally ready yet, I guess. But here we are. I remember having the same feeling, not to beat a fucking dead horse, but Final Fantasy X being what it was to me, and then Final Fantasy XI being what it was. I was like, well, I'm not playing that. Loving 12, being disappointed by 13. When right before 15 came out, it's like I didn't let it wash over me until right before it came out, and then I got super excited. And I feel like, and although that game was a bit of a letdown, I never even beat that one because I didn't really like a lot of the things that was going on. I'm feeling that same exact cadence of excitement for this one, where it's like it wasn't really hitting me until like a couple days before the demo hits. Now I think it's probably shaping up to, if the demo is any indication, to be one of my favorite releases of the year for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah,
can't wait.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have thoughts on it next week because it'll drop the day before we usually record. So, but we'll definitely be talking about reviews. So,
yep, for sure.
Right. So let's move on. Here we go, John. Let's hear it.
I'm gonna take
Big
you on.
news.
I'm gonna take it's story time, Nick. Sit down. Sit on Uncle John's lap. I gotta tell you a story.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So the year is 2011, right? I'm sitting. I'm starting to become a young man. I moved out of my college town, started my first job. Had my PlayStation 3 with me. That was like the only thing keeping me company, right? And a little game comes out in November of that year called Dark Souls. And the game completely overwhelms me. I love it to its core, and it completely got me absorbed into this Soulsborne franchise that we've all learned and loved so much. Fell in love with that game. Bloodborne comes out, fall in love with that one. Dark Souls 3, fall in love with that one. Fall in love with all of them. I love all those games. And then Elden Ring comes out, right? And I'm going to keep saying it just because it gets under his skin so much, but, get this game day one. Friend of the show, Jake, got this game day one and knew that it was going to be one of my most loved things ever. It takes the Dark Souls franchise, the formula, and puts it into an open that's excellently executed. I felt it from day one. I loved everything about it, but my life began to change, right? I had 2 newborn girls, twin girls. They take up most of my time. I have my 5-6-year-old son. The only reason I said 5 and then 6 is because he changed age. Not that I don't know what his age is. I promise you I know what his age is.
That's how long it's been since you got the game.
Yep. And I got to a point with it where I was like, I beat, I think, the first big boss, and I was like, I love this, but I had to put it down because just life got in the way, right? It happens.
Yep.
And I've been staring at that game for since that time. That was about 18 months ago. And I've chipped away at it here and there. I've played a little bit. I've restarted it. But over the past month, I finally was able to really make it my main focus, get through it. And not only was I able to beat it, but as some Twitter followers of us may have seen, I was able to platinum Elden Ring, Nick. And oh man, I feel so good. I feel so good on so many different ways, right?
It's like an arc of the show. Like you've had to bring up Elden Ring so much, and it's always had this caveat of like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
I know. Every time I looked at it, I just felt the disappointment from friend of the show, Mark. Just like, dude, I thought you said you loved this game. I told you I love this game, and why haven't you beaten it? Can't wait to hear your journey. Well, Mark, I finally did it, man. I got that platinum. It was a hell of a time the entire way through. Not going to really get into obviously what kind of game Elden Ring is. Everybody knows that at this point, but to get to the end of this game and to get through an incredible array of boss fights that I fought tooth and nail for, even with the build that I had that seemed a little bit cheap at times, but I'm happy that I did it. Millennia, being the boss fight that I was terrified to do, and like I was literally nervous. I kept looking and be like, when am I approaching her? When am I approaching her? Because I don't want to do this, and to fight her and to get my ass kicked, but to kind of come back around to it, right? I'm gonna go take on some other bosses, strengthen up a little bit, get my mimic up to a +10, and to overcome that boss with the level of spectacle that she is, with the second cutscene, and she grows these crazy wings that are very floral and kind of contradict everything else that about the area and game you're in, to fighting Malekith, this one of the end bosses, who starts off with this robe cloak thing. He just like this gross covered thing. Halfway through the fight, he shifts into this wolf dude that pulls this crazy blood sword out of his hand, and it's fucking awesome. The final fight, Radahn's fight. I could go on for days about the boss fights, which that's what this game is known for. But just it's truly one of those greatest of all time games. The open world is probably, I would say, the best open world I've ever played. I know that, it's very different from something like a Red Dead 2, which is incredibly in-depth, incredibly intricate with real happenings all over the place, but just the design that this one had with the hidden caves and hidden dungeons and things that you would just come across randomly, to the boss fights that just appear in this open field depending on the time of day and things like that. It just, it perfected a formula of a series that I've loved for 12 years now. And it's just really a special thing to be able to say as a gamer, for them to take a formula and a game that Dark Souls was already one of my favorite games of all time, Bloodborne, same thing, and then to perfect it into this open world formula that they do so well. It's just, I can't sit here and say it's my favorite game of all time. There were some things that, it got a little... Towards the end of the game, the bosses seemed to be a little heavy with the attacks. Like, I would get two-shotted by everything towards the end of the game. But you learn the patterns and you learn the bosses and you figure out what you can use to your advantage, that the game obviously is built in. It's just it's truly one of the greatest gaming experiences I've definitely had. The platinum was fun. One of the problems with some of the Souls games that I hated with the trophy hunting is you really had to grind for items. You had to grind for a specific ore that would level up your weapons, a specific weapon drop that only came from a certain enemy. And this game kind of alleviated all that. You only really had to find all the legendary weapons, incantations, and talismans. Those were all just kind of either located in the world or locked behind a boss that you could easily find. So that was not a problem. All the boss trophies were just, hey, go fight all the bosses. Great, I can do that. And so... It is kind of shocking, too, when I was looking at the trophy data. It's like 36% of players have beaten Millennia, which is wild to me, that they've gotten to the end of this game and stuck with it. It's such a strong, sticking game that really vibes with so many people that, they want to see everything they have. They want to be beaten into the ground. I know that you hate that feeling, but, man, just the level of accomplishment, like when I beat Millennia and just standing up and going, like, I don't do that in any other game. And truly is special. I'm sad it's over, but I'm very happy with my timing, because I think we're going to see Shadow of the Erd Tree hopefully some point next year. I can jump back in, maybe try out a new build or stick with the one I have. But yeah, man, it lived up to its potential. I'm happy to be done with it. I'm happy that I don't have to bring it up on the show anymore. But I will say I'm dealing with that little bit of post goat malaise where it happens after God of War, it happens after these games where I'm like, I don't want to play anything right now. All these games suck.
Right.
Like, I want more of that, more of what made that special. But luckily, as we just talked about, Final Fantasy 16 coming around, I think, to save the day in that front. And I think I timed it pretty well. I still got Tears of the Kingdom looking at me. That's going to take Elden Ring's place of the perpetual backlog game that I hope to get through. But happy to say it was a 10 out of 10. It's a 5 out of 5. Easy 5 out of 5. And I just wish, Nick, you had a little more fortitude and you weren't such a little baby about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. But it's great.
So for the platinum for this game, you had to save scum, like take advantage of the cloud save to reload your save so you could get the multiple endings. Well, how was that?
Not as bad as I thought. I worked it up in my head a lot worse than it was. Really, it just comes down to going to Power Picks. Power Picks is fucking great if you're a trophy hunter. They have very good in-depth walkthroughs, and being as big as this game was, that there was going to have very accurate information. So, they gave me the instructions. Like, first you have to go into your console settings and deactivate the automatic cloud syncing. And then all you have to do, and this game is nice in this regard, is you can literally beat the final boss and save it right there. You basically put that save into the cloud, do one of the endings, turn the game off, reload that, like pull down that cloud save. It'll overwrite your console save, and then it reloads right where you were, do the other ending, and then just do that one more time and do the third ending. So, it's kind of a, is it a good design to have to do it that way? Nah, not really. But like, it was pretty simple to do.
Okay,
wasn't too bad. I was nervous about it. I will say I was pretty nervous on the first time I did it.
Okay,
because that would have been a bummer.
And not to be too spoilery, but can you hint at what your favorite ending was?
Yeah, there's one called the Frenzied Lord of the Frenzied Flame.
Okay.
And I won't spoil it, but it's the bad ending, but it's just kind of funny to me. Like,
okay.
And it's cool, and it's pretty cool too. So.
Okay.
And it's the hardest one to get. You have to actually go find this random red door in a random area. So you have to fast travel from the final boss area, go there. You have to unequip all your items, because this was another part where I freaked out. This is like the one ending that you have to do some missions up to get to that point.
Right.
And so I get up to the door, and it's like, it just doesn't give me a button prompt. So I'm like, no, did I fuck something up? But you have to literally unequip all of your items. You have to walk into the room naked for some reason, because it's a silly game. And then you do. And yeah, I got it. So that was a cool one. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, a monumental moment is putting that game in our review mirror. So, I mean, since day one it was always this thing, this caveat to you know, the John's gamer cred. You know, it's like, oh, you're the Soulsborne fan, but you haven't even beat Elden Ring. Like, okay, bud.
I know.
So the show gets more credible now with you finally beating it.
Yeah, it truly was. It was great, man. It's gonna be interesting game of the year time. This fall is gonna be pretty wild for me, because I've already played Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Elden Ring, Neon White, about to play Final Fantasy, gonna play Tears of the Kingdom. Like, oh my god, like this is an all-time year for me for sure.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. So we are moving into the finish line here, our sixth thing. And of course, it is that time of the month where we're going to learn all about this month's PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium games. But just like the show, PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium is moving into year 2. And along with just the normal game announcements, Sony is teasing an added benefit to premium members, and that is cloud streaming. They didn't say what games are going to be available on this. Hopefully it is PS3 games like Metal Gear Solid 4. That would
hold your breath,
that would be that would be huge. But they did say this is coming as an added benefit to premium users. I don't know, John. What do you think about this? Do you think this could be something good?
I'm going to be totally honest with you, Nick. I feel like I don't quite understand streaming, like as a benefit. Like I just don't.
Well,
I don't.
Let's say in like your scenario that you brought up when we were talking about the Q Lite. Like, imagine you streaming a game directly to that.
From my console?
Yes, that your console could be used while you're streaming a game. Oh.
If I can do that, sure. But like, it's just like, you know, in that specific instance, it's like that's what remote plays for. The Q Lite doesn't even seem to be something that you really want to take out of your house, you know. So, I mean, if Sony, listen, I think Sony's smart enough. They obviously are. They're a huge multinational corporation that knows that cloud gaming is going to be a huge part of the gaming future. So if this is kind of a just one of the first steps into that world where they're going to start making it a viable thing that they can do, sure, I'm all for it. But like, again, I just, in my current scenario where it's like, okay, there's really no way to stream a game from my PlayStation outside of my house in a great way. There's no way, you know, I already have remote play. It's just like, okay, so I don't have to spend the time downloading a game. I can just stream it directly. That seems to be like the only benefit that I can see right now, but maybe that's just me being a layman. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. This is a wait and see, but again, we've been pretty down on premium, so maybe it's nice to have another added benefit, even if it's not getting the games that we want. Maybe it will.
It's just like, just show me, like, somebody explain to me what streaming a game does for me as a PlayStation gamer that is an added benefit to any other way I can play, I guess. I don't know. I don't see it.
That's a good point.
So.
All right. So they did announce 25 games coming to Extra and another 4 coming to Classic or Premium tier. But John, do you have any highlights? Because we're not going to list them all. We're just going to do our picks. But do you have any picks from this list?
Yes, I have 2. So the first one, and this one, This is I have no idea why Sony wouldn't have put this in their showcase over a game like Cat Quest, the Pirates of the Caribbean, but Rogue Legacy 2 is coming to PlayStation. It's not currently on the platform, so this is coming to Extra, I believe, the day it's coming out, which is very exciting. But like that's a level of game I think is worthy of that spot as opposed to Cat Quest. But this game's fantastic. I actually just beat this game on my Switch. I bought it because I was such a big fan of the first one, and it wasn't on PlayStation. But fuck me, right? Oh well, I'll get to play it again. But yeah, but it's a really, if you're into roguelikes, it does a very, very good job of the incremental leveling up system where you're kind of just moving forward a little bit at a time until all of a sudden you're able to get through an entire run. But what this game does is you basically start off a run as just a character, right? And once that character dies, you basically have your offspring, and you get to pick a new one. And it's just like this system where it's like you kind of are able to pass down heirlooms. Like as you go through, there's 6 different zones. As you go through, you're going to get different things that give you abilities to access other zones. Those are listed as heirlooms, and they pass down to your descendants. But you always get a selection between 3 different characters at the start of every run. I believe there's something like 15 different classes, so you're going to have a selection of one of those 15 through those 3, and then there's going to be different variables and things attached to them as well that kind of give you a different way to play. So, for instance, you might have a effect that gives you 50% more gold, but it's going to black out every enemy, so it's a lot harder to kind of determine what enemy you're facing, right? Like part of these games is knowing when you enter a room how you have to react quick enough to counter their moves versus you killing them. So, it's a small little detriment to your system, but like it gives you an added benefit of gold. And there's just weird classes as well. It's not just, hey, this is sword guy, this is axe guy, this is bow guy. There's a chef, and he uses a pan as his weapon, but he can hit projectiles back at the other characters. There's let's see, there's a boxer, and you're literally, you hit people with your gloves. It's obviously super, super up close, but it's super devastating if you can, get some combos on people. But it just does a lot of different ways to play with the systems and, keep you coming back for more. And then in between every run as well, you have this I don't know, it's probably 100 different things you can pump gold into, whether that's, just bumping your attack up by a little bit, or maybe it gives you a reroll for the different descendants that you can pick at the start of your run. Just, it really, varies the game up in a lot of different fun ways. I believe it's sitting at a 90 on OpenCritic, so it's obviously received very well, and I would highly recommend anybody who's into roguelikes, even people who are into Metroidvanias. It's not a Metroidvania, but it, so it kind of feels like that type of system. To give this game a check, to give it a look, because it really is a ton of fun. I'm probably gonna take a look at the trophies, and if it's something I think I can do, maybe jump back into it. I'm not sure, but
okay.
Yep, so that's one. And then I know you hate this game, Nick, but I do got to just shout it out because it is quality, I think, if you're into that, and that's Inscription.
All right, I'll give you that.
I know. It's a weird one. It's got, it's one of those meta games that really play with your expectations and what's going on in the game. But it's a card game with some, interesting, it's got a very interesting vibe to it.
Yes.
I won't say it's horror, but it's kind of trying to approach that. But 86 on OpenCritic, high level game, but I would check it out if you're into card games. It's kind of different.
Yeah, this is the
weird.
best way to check it out is, as part of this service, and it'll definitely scratch an itch for certain people, but definitely not me. And and of all the games on here, wow, I 25 games, and I can't recommend only one, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This came out last year. I brought it to the show last year. It is a side-scrolling beat 'em up, perfect to play with your friends. The perfect encapsulation of the Turtles franchise as a whole. We got that movie coming later this year. It's getting DLC sometime this month. I don't know the exact date, but it's getting more content. It's just a perfect one of for what it's trying to do, and that's be a fun beat 'em up to play with your friends. And it's also a game both John and I played and completed, so we're both fans of it. So.
Yeah, another one I might want to jump back in, mostly because my son, he dug Streets of Rage 4 a good amount, and I think he would like this one even more. It's a little more simple, and obviously with the Turtles aesthetic, what little boy doesn't like the Turtles? So I might jump back into this one. Check out the Platinum as well, see what that looks like. Although beat 'em ups, you almost always have to beat them like 10 times, so we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's a very solid beat 'em up.
All right, so is that it? You got no more picks?
Nah, Far Cry 6 is good if you like stuff, but everybody knows Far Cry. So,
all right, so you can check out the full list on the PlayStation blog, and all of these games will be available on June 20th for you to check out. So again, it's a beefy list, so there's quite a few games in there to check out.
Ooh, we got to make sure a friend of the tall boy at work. I don't know if I know you don't like me saying names, but the tall boy. There's a game trial for WWE 2K23 that he can maybe check out as well. So we should maybe.
Isn't that premium though? The game trials.
I don't know.
Yes, that's game trials are premium. So.
I don't know. What do you expect me to know these things for?
I don't know. You do a podcast.
Yeah, that's not why they're here.
All right, so that is it. That is 6 things. All right, so teases for next week. Obviously, Final Fantasy 16. I'm going to talk about it without a doubt. I've been playing Street Fighter 6. I definitely want to bring that and talk about my experience as a fighting game noob, trying to play that game. And I also want to talk about, for a topic, is the different editions of video games that keep coming out. The Ultimate editions for Street Fighter and Diablo 4 kind of drew some scrutiny for some things that they did, and Big Spider-Man 2 is also getting a deluxe edition, and I want to talk about them all and just kind of get our thoughts on the practices that are involved in all those. So
yeah, you just had to ruin my morning with that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's right. I already went to Levi and told him he's paying the extra $10.
Yes, Spider-Man 2 is locking 10 suits, 5 for Peter, 5 for Miles, and it's deluxe edition. But yeah, I just want to give some context to what you were referring to. So if you have thoughts on those editions, definitely let us know. Email us at PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com because I definitely want to talk about them. And then what do you got, John? What are you teasing for next week?
Like I said, I don't know if I'm feeling that post Elden Ring just malaise where, everything's not hitting, but I still am playing Tears of the Kingdom, in my free time. It's still great. So I'm not sure if I'll have more thoughts to say on it at that point. It's probably just gonna be more of the same, but, I might try and jump into Tunic. That's kind of the one game that I might be able to do a little bit of before I jump into Final Fantasy, but also, it might be a good idea just to kind of air it out for a week, just shake it off and start fresh with Final Fantasy. So I might not have anything game-wise next week, but we'll find some fun stuff to talk about regardless.
Yep, of course. So, all right, we did it. We got through it. And the song, as I teased earlier, is from Final Fantasy 16, and it is a banger. It is called Find the Flame by Masayoshi Soken. It is awesome. John, you should listen to this after the podcast too.
Okay. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure it played in one of the cutscenes that we saw, one of the 6 billion cutscenes we saw in Final Fantasy 16. So
yeah, I think this one, I believe it was this one they showed off like a week or two ago, or a while back, where this is like Clive's theme song, but I didn't listen to the whole thing, so I definitely will now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Enjoy the song. Again, we thank you for listening. We apologize for no video podcast this week, as our schedules just did not align for that to work out. But again, we will continue doing video podcasts, just not this week. So forgive us. All right. So enjoy the song, and we will be back next week with 6 more things. Bye, guys.
Bye.